Alright, let's do a sound check here. Looks like you guys have sound. And let's check on Ranger. How's Ranger doing? Ranger looks like he's doing good downstairs, so that's good. Go check on him. Alright, we're rotating through everything. We're getting started here. It's a Friday afternoon, which means that we're not working too hard. But I thought I'd do something fun today that I don't think I've ever done on stream. I've thought about doing it on stream before. But we're going to hop down in our Discord channel. So if anybody wants to come in there and actually ask questions or talk or hang out, we'll do that. And other than that, I'll just kind of work on stuff and talk through kind of getting the job in the Linux world. So there's Fisherman. How's it going, Fisherman? You should hop on and stream too. Or at least hop down in the channel. Alright, give me a minute, we'll go do that. I'll give you guys a few minutes to show up here, and then we go. You like to get a job in the Linux world? The Linux world is the friends we made along the way. Alright, give me 1 second here. Be right back. Alright, back. Alright. Let's go see if this is a safe idea or a bad idea. I'm going to go hop down in our Discord. Oh, wait a minute. People are already down there in the Linux chat. Alright, well then I guess I'll hop down in study groups. And I don't know if it'll work down in there or not. So we'll have to see if it works where I can hear people, and if you guys can hear the people. Most importantly will be if you guys can hear the peoples and know what they're talking about and or doing. So we'll see how that goes. All right. But other than that little thing that I've got going there. Let me move this up here out of the way. All right, good. I think that'll work. All right. So, while we're waiting for that stuff to come back and give us some information. Oh, what's going on here? We are watching something other than what we normally watch. We were watching some other systems there. Okay. Now we got failed of users trying to log. These are the user login messages now. So, okay. Good. All right, so what are we doing here? In the home lab, we have a whole bunch more topics that we can cover from the CompTIA Linux Plus. Again, even if you don't want to go get the skills, even if you don't want to go take a cert, at least understanding the pieces of that cert can be kind of valuable. If any of you guys want to hop down in the Discord, I'm in the study groups channel. So we're just kind of studying some Linux here. All right. So I've got a set of systems, or I've got a bunch of systems that we can use. But the system that I happen to be on right now is Rocky 1. And in here, there's a tool that we have. There's a process running called systemd, right? And systemd is running, and it's doing a bunch of things in our system, and we can control it with systemctl, right? So we're able to control a bunch of these different processes. And let's check this Rocky system here, and maybe we do a systemctl. Maybe we know that there's a process running. I'm pretty sure on here we have promtail running, so we do a systemctl and maybe we say list units. By the way, if you don't do list units, that's the default. So whether you do this command here or you just do this command, it'll actually give you the same output. So systemctl list units will tell you everything that's going on. And let's say that I just wanted to grep for prom, because I think promtail is running on all my nodes. Yeah, so promtail is an agent that I have running. And if I wanted to go dig in a little bit about how that promtail tool has started in my system, I can go start looking into it. I can say systemctl cat promtail, and I'll see that promtail is being run as an exec start. It's a single shot, one-time start service. Opt promtail -linux-amd64, so that is a pre-compiled executable that I downloaded, and then the config is in that same location under opt promtail and then some pathing, right? So I can see how the system works. I can also see there's a very special one that we put in here when we wrote this for these nodes, because these nodes mount opt as a NFS mount point, and that executable is inside of that NFS mount point. It's not on the opt that's on the container that comes up with this node. So what happened was we had to write this ourselves and say after network online target, so the network has to be up, and opt.mount has to be up, so that we know that the executable is mounted and able to be run by our system, right? So the executable exists for all 19 of these nodes in /opt, but each one of them executes and runs their own version, right, of promtail on their own node. So you can do that. You can have shared libraries, as it were, and all the nodes can do it. You mainly want to do that in a way where they're not writing anything to it. Obviously, if they were all sharing opt for like a PID or something like that, and there was like a PID file or something out there, that would cause problems, but that's not how that works. So, okay. So anyways, that's kind of systemctl status, right? We can do a status. And see that as far as the systemd daemon knows, right? System daemon, as far as it knows, this is running. And it's also getting some logging out to it, and it's all wonderful, right? We can see the process ID that has to do with it. We typically should see the PID right here, and then we can go look at that. Yeah, there is a specific command. So the command you want, so like if I wanted to know what promtail was waiting for when the system came up, I would do something like this. I would do systemd analyze, and then I would say critical chain for promtail.service, like that. Critical chain, like that. And now this would show me from the time the system started all the way until promtail service came up. This was the requirements. Now, the requirements that we wrote in were network online target and opt mount, but all of these things were prerequisites before network. So network is in our critical path, as it were, or what they call a critical chain. If we were doing project management theory, critical chain and critical path would not be completely interchangeable. Yeah, but the term is systemd analyze critical chain promtail service. This is so critical if things break. If everything works, I tell you guys all the time, if everything works, you don't open up the hood of that truck. You just go drive the truck around. But when something breaks and the truck doesn't start, then you got to open up the hood and go, that's an engine. Yep. Seems to run on some type of gas. Oh, there's your problem. You ain't got no gas in it. All right. Internet memes all the way down, right? All right. So we start, we stop, we go look at things, we can status. There's an enable and a disable. So this is kind of an important concept. So if we do a systemctl status, we see that it's active. And there's two types of states that a service can be in. And they are either started, where they're active, or stopped, where they are typically dead or inactive, right? So I can do systemctl stop promtail, right? And then systemctl status promtail, and promtail. and now it's inactive or dead, right? But right here, you still see this other value of enabled. So see right here, enable or disable. So enable or disable are a different concept. Start and stop deal with the current running status of the system, but enable and disable deal with the persistence of a rebooted system. So the persistence of a system after a full system D restart, like a full restart of the system, are your concepts of enable and disable. And then you say, well, what about this other enable or disable over here? Because there's this other one. Well, that's just the default from the vendor. This one actually doesn't matter. You can, that one can be disabled or enabled or whatever. The one that matters is this first one you see. So this system is enabled. So if I were to ask you right now as a systems administrator, systems engineer, if I were to restart this Rocky 1 right now, would I expect Promtail to start? Even though I just stopped it, right? It stopped. Excuse me. Would it come back up the next time? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes, it should be. Yeah, Gan, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I mean, I only get on here to help you guys out, I hope, and make this stuff useful. Also, if any of you guys are in the Discord, I am down in the study groups channel. I'm also muted there, so you'd be able to hear me over here. But hopefully I'd be able to hear you guys if you had questions or anything. All right. So enable and enable now. No. So enable and enable now do two different things. Enable or disable. If you do just enable or just disable on a service, right? You only set them. So if I were to do an enable here, I would be setting that for the future, but I would not be turning it on right now. And if I set it to disable, I would be setting it for the future, but I would not be doing any changes now. In fact, all it does is create or delete the link, right? But here's the thing. This doesn't change anything now, but when you do that -- now, which is something that I never really got into. A lot of engineers I know love doing that. They do enable -- now. And I think you even see it have snuck into some of my labs. But I really don't like that. I like starting and stopping a service as an engineer until I feel comfortable with it. And then I go ahead and enable it and reboot the box. I don't do the enable -- now. What the enable now does is it does the enable and it does the start with it. So that it's fine to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't do that professionally. I start and stop services until I get them in the state and configuration I want. And then I do enable and I reboot the machine to make sure that it's going to come back up right. So those are my kind of my steps there, if you will. All right. So you can also mask a service. Masking a service is this interesting thing where it will no longer start. So system CTL, let's say mask Promtail. And it says that failed to mask the unit. The service already exists. We should let's disable it, and then let's mask it. Let's Promtail service. No. It won't let us mask it. Typically, if you mask it, what'll happen is the system will no longer be able to start that Promtail service, even if somebody were to turn it on. But I don't see the... oh, you know what? I apologize, guys. I am covering... nobody's talking on YouTube anyways, so it doesn't matter. I was covering my YouTube chat, so I couldn't see it. That'll be fine, I guess. We'll do it that way. All right. So, yeah, masking doesn't allow a service to start anymore. If I were to mask... I thought you could just do the old Promtail, but systemd Promtail service already exists. Huh. Yeah, Action, yeah, you're welcome to lurk. You're always welcome to lurk. It's all good. We're not working too hard. Just hanging out, waiting for the wife to get home. Typically we do date nights on Fridays. And I just kind of hang out until she gets here. Yeah, All right. Well, I guess I'll drop out. I'll drop out on Discord because nobody showed up. But I was hoping that somebody would want to hang out in Discord and then we'd have a little chat. But I guess that's not. I guess that's not for today. All right. They talk about how to schedule services with Cron. Every user in Linux has a Cron tab, but it might not always be set up. So, it's possible that cron tab's not there. So let's do a system CTL status on cron D. Maybe cron. Well, apparently these little low-level systems don't have it. Let's come over here. Cron tab -L will show you guys the way that I run stuff in my environment. This is the playbook that used to alert everybody in our Discord every morning at 6 a.m. my time how our labs environment we're doing. And I commented it out the other day, so you guys haven't been seeing that. I commented out because other people are writing into Discord right now in our sandbox, right? We have access for everybody to go in there. Everybody can write in our sandbox. It's all good, right? And actually, somebody dropped something in Home Lab chat, so interesting. Looks like people are doing what they're doing. Give me 1 second here real quick, guys. I gotta... Okay. Anyway, so that's cron. You've got a cron tab. So let's look real quick. So cron tab -L will show you your cron tab for your user. Now I happen to be the root user. So my cron tab is in var spool cron, right? And then right here there's my cron tab. And by default in Red Hat style systems, that's where your cron jobs go. If you do cron tab -E in your own environment and build your own cron jobs, other root or admin users can go look at your cron tabs in var spool cron if they want to. All right. Yeah, hack the planet. Yeah, I was talking about that probably before you got here, but enable -now will start it and enable it at the same time. But I don't really use that. I never got into that convention. So, because I just don't, I'm doing two different things typically between starting and stopping a service over and over again. And then when I feel good and it's good enough and I'm ready to test with a reboot, which is after. So I tend to do them separately, but that is what it does for sure. But I have to run so many hundreds of commands before then, it doesn't really matter for one more. But okay, so over here, I want to show you guys that this. You have the ability to stop users from using cron. You have an etc cron.allow. Whoops. And you have an etc cron.deny, right? And the interesting thing is if you do have something in cron.allow, you have at the end of this file, because by the way, this makes sense. If I had a cron.allow, if I had any allow list of like everybody that was allowed to come in my front door, at the end of this allow list, I must have a deny everybody else. Otherwise, why would I have to put anybody in here? We'll think about this real quick. If I had an etc cron. If I had an allow list to my house, and the first thing on the list was Scott. So Scott was the first person on the list, me. But then I didn't have anybody in deny. Well, I would allow Scott, and then I wouldn't have anybody deny, so I would just allow everybody else too. But if you use an etc cron.allow, there's an implicit deny at the end. So even if you don't have anybody in cron.deny, the only person on this system that can use cron is root. Unless I go put other users in cron.allow. All right. You're going for ISO 27001 certification at our company. I'm mainly a Linux and Kubernetes guy. Do I have any tips? I would always tell you, if you're doing any type of certification of, especially ISO, the ISO certs, I would just make sure I document everything I can. Make sure you have everything documented. Typically, the way most audits that I've seen and certifications go is they'll come in the first time and they'll let you know all the things they're looking for at the beginning of the cert, or like I mostly do like third party audits for like PCI compliance or something. That's mostly what's kind of run in my life as an engineer. That's mostly the security kind of stuff I've had to do. So it tends to be that they tell you what they're looking for, you gather up all the documentation, they let you know if there's any problems, and then you get to kind of go and remove the things that aren't needed and that kind of stuff. Again, all this stuff will be installed with Cron in a system. Yeah, so by default most systems will have this. A lot of us turn Cron off. In the professional world, Cron has more problems than it has solutions as far as like if you're talking the like from STIG standpoints. So a lot of us will turn it off, and then you can use system D timers as well if you wanted to. Yeah. But in Loopy, I would definitely, if I was looking for getting a cert, I would definitely just make sure I document as much as I can. Document your processes, write down how you do things, and then that should make things as good as possible. One of the things I've been really emphasizing in the admin course, and I haven't mentioned it probably since like week 3 or 4, so maybe some people have forgotten, but this concept of like having a run book, having a big run book for how everything works in your system, and that's a place where like your junior people can go look, and they can see like, hey, what do we do? How should a running system work? What should we try to kind of just make sure that everything's good before we maybe call up to some higher person? Off topic, but is this your AAP control node? No, this is just my jump box in my home lab, Shoujo. I do everything off my jump box. I know it's really bad practice, but my jump box is kind of like my baby. And I do need to update this thing. This is, man, I know it's getting on the old side now. So I need to get in there, and one of my projects here in the future is going to be popping in here. And I'll make a P01 probably jump 02. And it'll probably be like a Rocky 9.3 or 9.4 box, and then we'll rebuild and move everything over there. Hack the Planet, yeah, I used to run Satellite 5 and 6 for a pretty big, we moved from 5 to 6 for a pretty big insurance company. Used to work for AAA. Most people, know of them as the car club, but I did the insurance side of things. And I had about 1,500 Linux boxes over there and about 3,500 Windows machines. Now, the Windows machines weren't obviously managed by Satellite, but all my stuff on the Red Hat side was all Satellite. Now, when I say I had the Windows machines as well, I was the platform engineering lead for both teams, but I was the tech lead, but I didn't, I don't tell people often that I did stuff in Windows. I mostly just helped those guys with security and cert type stuff, like security, certificates, storage, getting stuff to work within the company because I had been there a long time and I knew who to work with on stuff. That was kind of the thing that I did. Yeah, Satellite and Foreman's a must. The the one-off for the Satellite stuff is if you don't have the money, or if your company's not so big, you can always run Pulp, right? Pulp is part of Satellite project from that side, so you could run Pulp and then do all of your lifecycle management. I need to make a lab out of that one of these days. I just haven't gotten around to that. And I see Fisherman's here. Fisherman's taking time away from his busy day of being an official blogger on the internet to come and tell us about, all the important things about things. I'm just kidding. We don't know what Fisherman does, but everything gets done. That's the thing too, is like I tell you guys about being like a Linux anything really, but for sure a Linux engineer. People don't really know what you do. As long as things are getting done, management just they just back away from your sorcerer circle because they don't know what the hell's... I said sorcerer. Sorcerer! Because they don't know what you're doing. Shoujo boy. Fisherman's our bot admin for our server. He writes the bot that smarts off to everybody. And then Jack, how's it going? We're just hanging out. Yeah, we're not. Look, Fridays aren't for working hard. Fridays are for hanging out. I was down in the Discord a little while ago, but nobody hopped in my study channel, so I left the channel, but nobody hopped in there. I was gonna talk with people if they wanted to. So, we were going to talk job stuff today. I had a good idea. Somebody earlier mentioned a good idea for a future stream topic, and that was they want me to start from the very start and show how to build a Bastion host out. So I will do that. But after, I have 2 more days of the Linux. So let's pull this up real quick. We have 2 more days. Let's go pull up Word. Prologue syllabus. Let's look at these last 2 days we have to do. What's the tasks? What are the last 2? What have we been through? What have I put everybody through? Some people have been sticking with it and really working hard, but this was our stuff, man. We've been all the way. We're all the way down here, guys. We're all the way down here for tomorrow. What's engineering troubleshooting? Hey, how's it going, Lezerbisca? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's 3 months. 3 months already, right? Probably remember the first time you wandered in here and go, what the heck is this guy doing? Well, to be fair, I don't really know what I'm doing either. But in Loopy, you said, what do I mean a run book? Oh, yeah, so a run book, I missed that, sorry. It's not really a standards thing. Hold on. Let me stand up for a second and go grab something. So, I happen to have a run book here from a company one of my brothers used to work at. And hold on real quick. Can I turn myself on here? Gotta make sure I have my filters right. Give me 1 second here. Gotta turn off. Not working too hard. And then I gotta go to me, which is the video. I need a second here, guys. Primary video, properties, filters, edit. So many things to edit. Alright, turn off the color key. Close. Alright. There we go. Alright, can you guys see me? Alright, good. You guys should be able to see me. What I was going to show you is this is a company my brother John used to work at. And what this is actually this is called Linux Systems Administration. This was like a university of theirs, but it's basically a run book of how their systems work. So this one is kind of to train people. It shows a little bit about how like syslog works and then some GUI software management on some of their stuff. But it's it's essentially like a run book, and you could be sitting like in a knock, and you could sit down and go, okay, somebody asked me to set up SSH for them. They needed the keys. So here's how SSH keygen works. And they give you, look, by the way, could you do this with a man page? Sure, but this is also a pretty old book from probably 10 plus years ago now, from a company that one of my brothers used to work at for all the web stuff. And where I'm going is so what a run book would be is it, look, this right here could just be a media wiki. I used to write media wiki pages. I'd write like 5 a week or so. In fact, in 2020, I was still working at a company, Best Western, for a little bit, and they said I ran into one of their architects, or I ran into an architect that had worked at a company that I had been at before, and he goes, "Oh, you're Scott." He's like, "Yeah, I was still using your documentation on their HPC like 10 years later for some other team that I had been on." And I go, "Yeah, is my media wiki still up?" And he goes, "Yeah, we use your media wiki all the time." And I was like, there you go. Because a run book doesn't need to be physically printed. Although, hold on, it might be good if the systems are down to have something printed, which is actually, people think like, oh, I don't ever want to print anything out. But yeah, have you ever had to push a crash cart to a server, guys? Sometimes when you push a crash cart to a server, you need to flip through some pages to find some shit. That's why I tell you guys, you think I'm joking, I still carry a physical notebook. I write tasks in here. I have all my tasks in here. Well, I got stuff to do. Anyways, don't worry about that. It's almost Christmas time, right? But where I'm going with this is, yeah, DocuWiki. Man, some of your I've seen OneNote be used really well. You guys might not think, but man, OneNote is clean to share with people. I cannot stand SharePoint. I think SharePoint's absolutely just brutally terrible. But OneNote, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a OneNote like shared in a doc folder or in a Teams message where everybody can access it. You can do some pretty clean documentation over there. Not as good as maybe like a media wiki where you can just mark down and copy pages and stuff, but it's pretty close. I used to build like when we would do upgrades on HPCs, you have to keep you have to move all the versions forward, right? And it's like a very controlled. It's almost like you're carrying a plate that's stacked too high, and you're like, okay, I got to move the kernel, then I got to rebuild my OFED drivers. Well, but wait, when I go to build my OFED drivers, I'm going to lose my network. Shit. All right, well, I got to launch a script over because I'm trying to do this in a playbook, right? So my Ansible playbook has to launch a script over, kick off the script, and then wait 10 minutes for that script to finish to be able to get the network back, because when I go over there and do the OFED driver build, it takes off your Ethernet, and that does happen on some types of servers, and then you're just like, and it's like this whole complexity of like carrying too many plates back to the kitchen. You're like the dwarves with Bilbo Baggins, if any of you remember that. Not the movie, the book. The book was the movie was okay, right? But they were throwing his plates everywhere. But that was the thing, was they were giving him a hard time. Where was I going with that? Yeah, so you're moving too much stuff. So kernel version, OFED version, GPFS version, Slurm version, and I would keep these big matrices in there, and I would just update them as I went. So then when anybody would ask me like, "Hey Scott, how's this part of the transition or build going?" I would go reference that and go, "Okay, I've got this. I've tested this across all these systems, and on these systems I don't have it yet." Yeah, so it's pretty good. Yeah, and I would use that as my that was kind of like my reporting tool, the OneNote, but I've seen it be done pretty well. So anyway, so here's where we're at. Tomorrow we're gonna meet in the Prolog, right? Professional Linux Users Group meets tomorrow. It'll be at 3 o'clock in the Discord. If you guys have never been in our Discord is free, and it looks like this. And you go all the way up to the top, and here's all the events. There's a study group in about an hour and a half, so you can go hang and study with people if you wanted to. They're going to be doing Ansible. Some of you guys have been using Ansible to write data into our... We've got a sandbox, and you can send data into there right now. So some of you guys have been doing that. We've got a study group tomorrow, and then we've got our Linux Systems Admin course, which will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. my time. If you look this up in your Discord, it'll be in your time, guys. So I want to set up, I've been meaning to do this, but it's one of my many things that I mean to do and never get around to. If we pull this up right here, right? And let's stop this from spinning real quick. And we go look at Overleaf. Overleaf is a pretty cool little tool. You can go in with Google and it's free and you can build stuff. But what I've been meaning to do is you can run Overleaf. Look at this. You can go in and you can get Overleaf. Hey, Paul, how's it going? Been a while, man. Paul, do you know, so the guys over in London, over in the England part of the world, they've been saying that they want to get like a London get-together of the Professional Linux Users Group. And Paul, I know you're in the Phoenix area because, well, I've known Paul for a long time, guys. Paul, we should have I told everybody we should have a Phoenix one before anybody from outside of the U.S. has one, right? Like, shouldn't we have the Professional Linux Users Group meeting first before anybody else does? But anyways, the guys over in London have been talking about having a meetup, so maybe we'll have one. You know what we should do is Michael Pessa's going to talk to the group on the 11th about Kubernetes. He kind of gave a little bit about this. But there's Pessa right there. Actually, he's going to come talk on January 11th, which is going to be a really good talk. He kind of gave a little bit of he was doing an Ansible talk, and he was showing how he deployed some of his Kubernetes. But he's going to talk about Kubernetes in the enterprise and Kubernetes for your own home lab, right? But maybe when Pessa does that, because he's out of town a little bit, maybe we'll have a meetup over here, and we'll all sit here like this and be like crowded in on this, watching him. That would be kind of fun. So, Oh, well, Pesta, I mean, you could. I didn't even think about that, but you don't have to come all the way up. So, yeah, thanks for the gifted sub there, Shoujo Boy. Hopefully this stuff's useful. Giving a gifted sub over to Believe. So now Believe doesn't have to watch any of those ridiculous ads for a while. You guys got to remember, I'm very spoiled. Spoiled. I just pay for the turbo, so I never have to deal with ads. I can't stand being in different people. I get it. When people complain about ads around here, I'm like, I get it, guys. I don't like watching ads. And Amazon Prime with their damn ads, that pisses me off. Anyways, yeah, Pesta, you're welcome to come up if you want. Maybe, yeah, we'll just do it. We'll officially do it the 11th. Yeah, if anybody wants to come up, they can. And I'll send that out to the local guys. I'll get my brothers that are involved with the group to come down. That'll be good. Okay. Int Loopy, are these events presentations recorded? Yeah. We watch stuff over on YouTube. I have some of the recorded stuff. Basically, like the different recording of... So the last major group of presenting we had was on August 3rd and 4th this year. And that represented our 5 years on Discord and our 10 years of being a professional Linux users group. And it's actually funny, when I did that presentation, because we just looked at it the other day, we only had 2,300 people in the server. We have like 3,400 people in the server now, so it's like we're getting like a lot bigger. So, Fisherman, you never disappoint. I mean, Fisherman, you tend to disappoint, but you never disappoint when it comes to giving gifts. So, I'm just kidding. All right. If you guys don't know, Fisherman's the one who sent me the... exploding money, and I think that was that for Christmas last year? Has it been a year already? God, my wife was just mucking around with that thing the other day, and we figured out how to reload it. So I think she's gonna give it to somebody else too. So that's kind of I think she's gonna pass it on to somebody else as like a fun thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Christmas themed. And Shoujo Boy, hopefully you don't see any ads. So I hope that keeps you motivated to keep hanging out and learning Linux. Guys, the Discord's free. Like, nobody ever charges you for anything. I get weird pop-ups every now and then that tries to sell me stuff, but for the most part, it's pretty reasonable. All right. So we'll do engineering troubleshooting tomorrow. And when I say engineering troubleshooting, right, there's kind of a break, right? And I'm going to mention this because we're going to troubleshoot both ways. There's a break in the way that we troubleshoot if we're an admin working in a NOC, like a network operations center, late at night, the third shift or something, and doing system admin work. That is a different type of troubleshooting than an engineer does. And you say, what do you mean by that? Troubleshooting is troubleshooting. You'll hear me say that. It doesn't matter. However, there's some things in an administrative sense that are true that aren't always true in an engineering sense. Let me explain. In an administrative sense, if we're an admin, right, and we're working on a system, get a ticket or an alert that comes in, well, that system was just working a few minutes ago, or a few days ago, or 3 weeks ago. That system did at one point work. So as an administrator, we're not really flipping a whole bunch of bits and doing a whole bunch of wild stuff. We're typically looking at what changed. We're looking at how is this system different than other systems. Like I always use this example of you've got 5 web servers behind a load balancer and 2 of them start misbehaving in some way, right? So now, typically the right answer is, especially with web servers, who gives a shit about a web server? Turn it off and turn it back on, let it re-pull its config, especially if they're like a stateless or especially if they're like a pod or something, right? This is the whole point of containerless is I can just have something run back through its pipeline and come up clean again. Does that solve the problem of those 5 nodes, the 2 that were different? Or does it happen again? And then now is it something else? Is it in the requests that are coming down? Is it in the way that like TLS termination is happening and you ran out of your normal range of where TLS termination happens up at the load balancer? And there's so many things that can happen in the running of a system, like in the administration running of a system, that an engineer never thought about. An engineer is literally adjusting his glasses and looking down and going, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, I need this to work. That's what he's doing. And he's trying to get it to work in a perfect environment. And then when it goes out in the wild, things behave differently in the wild. Does that kind of make sense? I hope that makes sense, everybody. Let's check on Ranger real quick. We got a Ranger check. How is Ranger doing? Ranger is not on his bed, so I don't know where Ranger is, but he's not on his bed right now, guys. Intermittent issues can be harder to troubleshoot with reliability. Recreate the problem. It's true. If a problem can't be recreated, that's a major problem over on the admin side, right? In the engineering side, we have ways to look at it. So my point in showing you that and talking about that is engineering troubleshooting is going to be slightly different. We are going to have different levels of troubleshooting. We're going to have troubleshooting as we're building something. So we don't have any frame of reference. Maybe we've got like somebody's blog post. I want to go, Fisherman wrote a blog post about using Lightsail to do some AI workloads and stuff. And maybe I want to go do that. And I've never done it before, but I've got a frame of reference. So if I run into any troubles on that, I'm going to have to build something, but I don't have a frame of reference of like a working system. I have the examples that were given before, right? So an engineer doesn't get to just say, oh, well, it's worked in this environment before, because it never has. So he doesn't get that, right? Then once the system gets to working, we have to look at how a system cycles. What is a system trying to do, and why is it not doing it? So then there's this engineering concept of asking why 5 times. Why did the web server not serve up a 200? Well, because it served up a 300. Well, why did it serve up a 300? Well, because the resource actually was moved. Well, why was the resource moved? Well, because actually when somebody did a change, they did a change against 7 servers instead of only the 5, and it hit these other 2. And that's weird. Why did that happen? Because things are supposed to be deployed through, like they're supposed to be pods, so they're supposed to be immutable. So, and now you go troubleshoot, and you find out that there was like some overlap of IPs because somebody from the load balancer side had statically set this happens. If you ever statically assign anything down into a Kubernetes cluster, you are asking to get smacked down because you have no idea what software-defined networking is going to do. SDN and like what Kubernetes handles for you, you have no idea what a pod's going to come up as. The only targets you have down in Kubernetes that you ever know are always going to be there are going to be services by name and I guess ingress points. Like those are the only 2. Everything else can change, right? You don't know what's going to happen with those. So anyway, so that's that. We saw Ranger. Okay, so engineering troubleshooting, we're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about there's another one. When you're planning something, engineers will troubleshoot ahead of time. And the method that I use for that is a thing called failure modes and effects analysis. So FMEA, and I'll show you guys how that works, right? So that'll be that. And then the very last talk we have will be an incident response. We'll do an actual incident call out, and we'll do we'll do information gathering, and maybe I'll get everybody to connect on that one and try to find where an actual problem is in a system. Maybe I'll just build a killer Coda lab and let everybody go connect out there. That would be kind of good. Everybody could just smash on one of those labs for a little bit. And so it doesn't have to all be in my home lab, although I could write some in the home lab. Yeah. So the last one will be an incident. We'll have an actual incident, an actual problem happening, and we'll be gathering information and troubleshooting and doing a call in real time. Like a real bridge call with, we don't have to do like a hard methodology, but we'll probably run it similar to like a Kepner-Trago type incident bridge. We'll stand things up as you come on the call. You're going to be putting your timestamps in. You're going to be keeping track of when things happen. We actually did this very early in the Linux Systems Administration course. I didn't really focus hard on doing it. Now we're actually going to do it because incident response is probably the make or break thing to whether or not you stay a Linux Systems Administrator. You got the job and then bad things happened, and do you keep the job, right? Or do you fail because you can't help get the system back running and restored to a good state? So it's a thing that, it's scary for a lot of people. They're like, oh, I don't want to be in an incident. I don't ever want that to happen. Things are going to fail. And if you have a repeatable, understandable way that you go through those things to find the right answer by testing your assumptions and gathering all the facts and looking for anomalies and things that are different than what you expected, you will eventually, hopefully, drive to the right conclusion of why is this system not working. Yeah. You blame the admin from earlier. You ever heard the story of the 3 letters? There's a story about, a incoming CISO comes in, and that's Chief Information Security Officer, right? And he asks the previous Chief Information Security Officer if he has any advice, and he goes, yes, I have advice. I've left 3 letters in the desk. open them when things go wrong. Have you guys heard this? Anybody heard this? This is an old joke. I'm probably not going to tell it well. But anyways, so he's about 2 months in on the job and some problem happens. So he goes and he finds the letter number 1 and he opens it. And the thing that's written on it is, blame the last guy. Blame me, blame the last guy. So he goes, okay. He goes into the meeting. He blames the last guy. He says how they're going to fix it. Goes on. He makes it about 4 months later. So it's about 6 months in. And there's another problem. So he opens the second letter. And in the second letter it said, blame the vendor. Blame anybody else. So he blames somebody else. He blames the vendor. And, this and this and this. And they get that vendor out and they get a new vendor in, this and this and this. And then about a year in, he's getting pretty comfortable with everything. And then another problem happens. And he opens the third letter. And the third letter says, now prepare 3 letters. I always like that one. Because your ass is getting fired. Because you're no good at solving problems at this point. Anyways, all right. If I have to explain the joke, it's not as good. But I think that one's pretty funny. At least clever. So the last one will be incident response. All right. You guys don't have to like it. These are all recorded, by the way. So all of the previous ones of these are recorded. And they are all up in, we've got a Linux systems administration thing for that. Anyways, what I was going to do right now was start prepping this one. But no, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll prep this one tomorrow. Maybe during the day. Maybe I'll hop on and we'll make the labs up and we'll do all that stuff. The cyber kill chain of incident response. Yeah. We actually, what's funny, in which one of these? I don't remember which week it was. I think it was this week. We actually did cyber kill chain from MITRE. The attack kill chain of persistent threats. But as with all things, there's only so much time and so much, we could do. By the way, anybody that's interested, if you go down, if you want to catch up on the course, look, people are down there studying right now. If you want to catch up on the course, it's all here under Prolog projects. All the old projects and all the old stuff, we have discussions every week that you had to talk through. Some discussions made you come in here and look at data and see, like, what's the usage pattern for the last 7 days of these servers, and what do you think we should talk about? Like, the architects want to add more agents in here. Do we think that's a good idea, right? And we had to work through that, and people did some good talking about that. And this was a close-up for the last 24 hours of how our system was happening, right? What's going on in the environments. Excuse me. So, yeah. Look at all this. This is all old material. It's about 6 to 8 hours a week worth of material if you were to go through it all. So, all right. You get that out of the way. Ranger's back. Ranger's back on his bed. So we got Ranger doing Ranger stuff. I never finished the overleaf thing. What I wanted to do was stand up overleaf. Because if you go look at overleaf, if you go look at how easy it is to stand up, they actually have, let me pull this back up. They actually have a pretty good little, in their setup, you can just set it up as your own little Docker, which if you can run something on Docker, you can run on Kubernetes, right? But they show how to set it up, what you need to do. And what I kind of wanted to do was just have my own little API, and I was just going to send little markdown docs to it and make it just send me finished work. So what I would do with that then would be, let's say I wanted to get back into contracting and doing side jobs like I used to back in the day. I used to run a business when I was younger, and let's say I want to get back into that. And I wanted to have all my contracts just set up in Markdown where I could just drop all the stuff in there, or any of my like responses to RFPs or whatever I wanted to do. I would just send it up here and have it just generate the finished product for me from an image, or from not an image, but like just a Markdown template. That's what I was going to do. I just never got around to it because I don't care. So, Mr. Crumbs, I'm in a job where I'm an architect. I'm the architect, the engineer, and the admin for the infra networks. I'm collecting hats like it's, yeah. Yeah. I actually drew it out a while ago where, like, I think it's on one of my whiteboards here. It's probably all messy. Where I said, this was like an example I gave. This isn't a great or perfect example, but the idea was, because people were asking, what does an architect do? What does an engineer and what does an admin do? And what I was kind of showing here is, like, admin does 0 to, so this is like 0 to 100% of the admin role. The admin is just doing admin stuff. They're keeping everything running. They're monitoring stuff. They're responding to tickets. They go home at the end of the day. They don't really think of anything. But they do kind of go up into the engineering world a little bit, maybe like 50%. And that 50% that they go up is stuff like sometimes they're doing root cause analysis for what broke. Sometimes they're doing kind of some like capacity planning around how much longer we have. You know, I've been watching this bar graph and it looks like we got about 3 months till it crashes into something, right? But then like an engineer's up here and they're doing engineer stuff, but they're also reaching down 100%. I should have gone all the way to the bottom of admin work. An engineer does admin work. I mean, you still get tickets. People escalate stuff to you. I mean, unless you're in a huge firm, like at Lockheed Martin, I was an engineer for like real on a project with like 500 people. But when problems came back along stuff that we built, we were still kind of like admins fixing our stuff out in the wild. So, you know, engineers do admin work. I don't really care. I mean, I would say anywhere you're at, you're still doing admin type work, but you're also doing architect stuff. Your capacity planning and your digging. I build stuff and draw stuff all the time. Architects come down and do some build stuff, but it's mostly like proof of concept stuff, and typically they'll work with us. But then they also do other stuff, which I imagine is like sipping wine and talking about the vineyards they visited or something. I don't know. Anyways, but but this was my little drawing of how I think it all crosses over. It might not be perfect, but that's kind of part of it. All right. Anyways, where were we at? Ranger doing good. Ranger's doing Ranger stuff. Let's go look back here. We were on Cron, the Cron tab. I don't really use @ but if you need to get better at @ I think you can just man @ and then go look at how @ works. You say @ and then sometime in the future, and then it'll kick off your jobs or whatever. I'm not really, not really used that. I don't know. Maybe it just never seemed tenable to me, but it's fine. It's probably fine. I don't know. Never really felt like doing that. But it is a tool, and I guess you need to understand it. All right. There are a bunch of kill signals. You can kill term. You can kill... sig term, sig kill, and sig hup. And those are going to affect the way that your system stops things. So if I ps ef grep-i for... let's just look for root. And we'll just look at everything in here that's running under the root user. And let's say maybe I want to kill this NFS v4 process. Well, I can kill it according to its process ID. That's its process ID, PID 905. Now, by the way, in here, when I look at root, there's a bunch of other things that I see here. There's the process. Let's just take off the grep for root, and we'll just look at the whole thing so you guys can see the top bar. So you got process ID and parent process ID. And the parent process ID tells you what kicks something off. So if something was kicked off by 1 is system D. So system D daemon is always 1 in most modern Linux. So how did this user lib system D something user kick off? It was the system D daemon, right? Had all this K worker stuff come off. It should have been from there as well. How about, so like the werewolf client here was started by system D, which makes sense because I can go look at the service and see that the service started werewolf client, right? And there's my werewolf client, and it happens to be PID 805, so we do a status on it. And 805 is the main PID right there, so we kind of mapped everything. I tell you guys all the time, everything that you look at in the system should be mappable to something else. It's all chutes and ladders. There's nothing in here that's working off of magic. It's all something pointing at something else, and you just have to learn how to use your tools to find those things, right? Find how those things all map together. So, anyways, we can kill this process right now. We can do a kill, and a kill like this, where I just say 805, that will be this will be, I think by default, a sig term. This is a pretty nice little kill. If I do a status, it's now inactive dead, And if I need to, I can restart it. I'm going to see, and we'll let it start real quick. Okay. It's started. Let's check the status of it. It's got a new main process ID of 15199. And if I go look at, maybe I look at something a little easier and I grep for like WW's client, right? I see now that 15199 was started by system D, right? System D started that, not my bash shell. My bash shell is 12430. It's some nobody nothing out there running, but one is system D, right? System D started this. That's useful. That's useful for a lot of reasons, but it's useful to see if something like let's say I got called on a Monday, and Fisherman's on vacation, and they're like, "Hey Scott, Fisherman had this really important thing. He was going to send us this deliverable on Friday, and he didn't. Could you just kind of check and make sure that these systems are running and that they're like ready to go for prod?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I really should call him." But okay, all right, I'm going to go check. And one of the things that I might check on this system as I go look at it is, if it's not prod yet, this is something I would always clarify, by the way. If it's not prod yet, can I reboot it if I need to? Can I reboot these servers? But two, I would go look at maybe this client. Maybe this is what they wanted me to look at, was the Werewolf client. And I go and I look and see, was it started by system CTL? Or system D. Another one is this. I'll do a system CTL failed, like this. Or I'll do, this is another longer way to do it, list units, state, dash state equals failed, like that. And those will show you. So if you have a bunch of, let me show you something very shameful and embarrassing in my systems. In my Werewolf cluster, these are real clean. But look at my home lab, right? All right, look at my home lab. This is my jump box. These are systems that have failed because, man, this box is like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. It's an old CentOS 7 box. Look at these things that have failed. But the important thing to me is I didn't know anything else about these servers. Fisherman left for the weekend. Now I'm the one that's trying, he's gone all week. So I'm just like, shit, I need to make sure that these systems are fit for use. Do they do the things we want them to? And fit for warranty? Do I think they're at least going to last until he gets back? Well, these systems break on reboot. Well, something's busted in them for these things. Now, they might not be that important, but if they're not that important, we need to turn them off. Because why the hell are you trying to start these things if they don't run in your environment, right? In my environment, I left them on because I'm lazy. But, yeah, because now I need to know why those things failed. Were they important? Were they, I have more questions than I have answers now. But I would not feel comfortable releasing this to prod. Does that make sense? Because if for some reason, God forbid the system reboots on Tuesday night, I'm not confident this thing's coming up clean. But back over here, I'm at least confident that Werewolf client was started by system D, meaning there was no intervention. If I had to go in and execute, let me show you something here. I'm going to stop that again. Let's stop that client again real quick and show you guys something. Let's just stop the client. We killed it earlier. Now we're going to stop it. We didn't disable it. We stopped it. And then I'm going to do a system CTL cat W client. And I'm going to, here's the exact start for Werewolf client. This is how you start it right here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say no hup, so it doesn't die. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in the background so it's not holding my terminal. So now watch. PS, EF, grep-i. WW client is running on this system, but it was started by some old jerk down in a bash shell. It was not started by this. Does it? I really hope that makes sense. Watch. System CTL status WW client. There's no system daemon control over this. It was started outside of it. It was I don't know, man. If you want to think of it like in a movie, it was like when Agent Smith took his little earpiece off and said "fuck you" to the guys running the Matrix, and he was his own rogue program. This is, I'm not saying it's rogue. What I'm saying is it's not under the control of a system, so I don't know that it would start. I don't know, like if I come to a system and it looks like this, I don't know that it, well, one, I know it wasn't started this way. I don't know the state of that system. I don't know if he was banging away on the config still all the way until he got pulled out of his house to go on his vacation and he never got it working. I don't know. So one thing I would ask, by the way, because you say, well, Scott, you're giving us all these problems, but you're not giving us an answer. My answer to my management would be, can I reboot one of these? Like, these aren't in prod yet, right? And they go, no. And I go, well, I want to reboot one. Because what do I want to see when it reboots? I want to see this thing come up clean. If it comes up clean and it passes whatever checks I know, because they probably have their own checklist of whatever the app guys are doing. Did their app come up? Is it look stable? Does it have the mount points? Does it have our agents that I expect to be there? Is it doing the things that I want a server to do? If it's doing that, I'll give it a thumbs up and say, you know what? You owe me, because when you get back, you're going to have to go figure out, your documentation and all that kind of stuff. So have a script to run with a name, process manager that needs to be somewhere in the path, right? Process manager needs to be somewhere. Yeah. So the way paths work, yeah. There's a question about So to answer that question, if I echo my $ path right now, and then you give me a script, and in your script you have, your script is like, home. Right? And in there you say to execute something, and then I try to run your script, but your script is, down in home or some other thing like that, or it's looking for that. No, that's not going to work because it's not in the path. Yeah. Not just the script being there, but also like if you sent me some little one-liner and said, yeah, just kick off this script, and it was, or maybe if it was even the name of a file. So like, I say which, your script isn't going to work. But if I say like which Perl, it'll tell me where Perl is in the system, right? So yeah, your system always looks at its path, and your path is always modifiable. So if I knew that you were going to be in home Mr. Extremely and you were going to give me, a script called your script, I could just modify that in my, It's the same thing, by the way. If you ever cat Etsy cron tab, because we were talking about cron earlier. Oh, we don't have cron tab on here. Cat Etsy. Look at this. I want to show you something about cron tab that's important. If you put something in cron tab here, this is the path that it'll look at. It'll look at sbin, bin, user sbin, and user bin. That's it. So if you had something down in like home Mr. Extremely, you better call it down here in the path of the command. You better be explicit about an absolute path to it. Most people won't modify Etsy cron tab. Some people like to use cron.d. And in cron.d, you might have, like in this case, a cacti polar to check to make sure. I think, did this guy used to run Nagios back in the day? I don't remember. It's been commented out, but this is where these things happen. Right, this is where things go and generate your logs and generate whatever things you're doing. All right. So lots of stuff to look at, right? Lots of stuff to look at. I think sometimes you only see bash in the PS output, which is valid script, but yeah, nothing in the path. Yeah. Pathing is just one of those things you just you'll end up messing with pathing a lot. Your users, you guys as Linux admins and Linux engineers, and this is, by the way, this is something I always tell my junior guys. If you've been doing Linux for like even 6 months professionally, you have been looking at one of these things at 6 months. You've been looking at one of these for over 1,000 hours, because you work about 20. You work about 2,080 hours a year, right? If you work 40 hours a week. So if you've worked half a year in Linux, you've spent 1,000 hours. And then I'm not even talking about your time beforehand and your time as a hobbyist and stuff like that. Where I'm going with that is, you are going to know things about stuff like this just offhand that other people, even really smart engineers, and like, dude, guys, I'm telling you, I've worked with super smart bioinformaticists, super smart guys that do MATLAB, and I know guys that can pull multiple signals out of one signal, and I know guys that are brilliant. They don't know shit about Linux. So I tell people all the time, like, as engineers and as admins, you sometimes got to help people out a little bit. Like you'll immediately see, well, it's not in your path, but you can't just hammer people because you also couldn't go do all their MATLAB stuff, right? Like unless that's something you want to do. But my point is, like, I always tell my junior engineers, especially when you're working with administrators or with other engineers, you can't just be like, move, you don't know Linux. Yeah, well, nobody spends as much time in the command line as you do, right? I mean, like, even around a group of other, like, professional Linux users, like, you can't just, it's impossible to know all this stuff. That's one of the reasons I try to tell you guys, like, don't hammer the new guys that come in and ask questions. People like hammering them, and I'm like, it doesn't help them any, one. And two, we only know this stuff because we've been doing it for thousands of hours. Like, I see guys like post their Dead by Daylight hours, like, oh, I have 12,000 hours in Dead by Daylight. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, after, 20 something years in Linux, I probably have, oh God, how many hours, right? Over 40,000 hours looking at a command line like this, right? So if I picked some things up in that time, I shouldn't turn around and hammer the guy who just happens to play in Linux a little bit to do his engineering stuff, if that kind of makes sense. So, all right. Where's I going to? We were just talking about stuff. Oh, so you've got, man, look at all these services. You got Top. Most of us don't use Top that much, but I do want to show you something cool about Top. Top will show you what's going on in the system, but if you hit H inside of Top, it'll put you in this mode, and there's 3 things in here that are kind of useful. Probably a bunch of other things, guys, that are useful, but the only line that I ever really think about or use, if I am going to use Top, is this one right here, LTM. See right here, LTM? Then I hit Q, go back here, and I say L, and it will order these by the load. Then I hit T, and it will order it by whatever T was. And then I hit M, and it'll order it by memory. So system D is using the most memory in my system. Now Top is. L is what's using the most load in my system, right? And that's against CPU. Again, I don't really use this much, but that's what's using the most load, what's using the most task or CPU, and what's using the most memory. If you want to go get to be an expert in Top and H-Top, and is there a B-Top? I don't know B-Top. I don't know if I even have it. I'm pretty sure I've put H-Top on these systems. Let's go look over here. Hold on. Oh, I've frozen it all up. Where are we at here? Oh, no. Let's go down here. H-Top. I think I have H-Top. Maybe not. I must not have them on any of those. I might have them. Probably not, because it's just this is like a lighter. This is a version of 9.3. Yeah, 9.4 of Rocky here. So, oh, Mr. Crumbs, you're getting hit with ads. Yeah, well, I guess you're not hearing this, but for other people, he's getting hit with ads. I have no good advice for that. They put them in. It is a thing. I use Turbo because I don't like seeing ads. You can look at process state, so you should be able to PSEF. You can also do, well, there's other ones, but let's go look at all of Root's processes, and we should be able to see that the processes are here. We could count them real quick if we wanted, like how many processes. There's about 94 of them or so. And then we can see, I guess Top would probably be a good reason for this. You'd be able to see if they were in a certain state, like if they were sleeping, running, stopped, or if they were zombied. I don't really ever mess with any of that stuff too much. However, zombied processes do happen. Mr. Crumb, they shouldn't be too frequent. I think they're every half hour or so. I think that's but I will tell you, there's like a thing, if you've never run a Twitch stream. I only know this because I've been running Twitch streams for a while. You got 2 options with ads, guys. Let me tell you the 2 options. You can either run them when they want to, or you can put on this thing. If you don't want ads in your stream, right? If I don't want to have ads in my stream, I could say don't put ads in my stream, but then they do this really, really nefarious thing called pre-roll ads. You guys know what pre-roll ads are? These are the worst things ever. It's when you jump into a stream and you get dropped into ads for like 3 minutes. That's the worst, because if you do that, if you do that and somebody's like looking around for like Linux or something, they're gonna go somewhere else without pre-rolls. So they kind of force you to take these. I don't want to say force, but you have the option to choose between giving people ads throughout the thing, or it's going to be all at the beginning. Well, but it's not all at the beginning, because I think it's, I don't know. Anyways, they're called pre-roll ads. P. Gorley, how's it going? I swear you're, I've seen that name before. I don't know, P. Gorley, if you're in another stream that I go to or something. I mostly sit around in Dead by Daylight stuff, though, but at least for what I'm doing. Now, earlier, guys, when I was on the system, let's do a jobs command. And I've got this backgrounded job that's running that I also no-hupped. The reason I no-hupped it is this. If I exit this, so if I have a job that's running, yeah, P. Gorley, are you, let's see, hold on. I'm never going to remember it, but I'm trying to think of who I've heard say the name. But anyways, you're welcome here for a first-time chatter. I'm not going to try to call you out on what you... I mostly hang out in Dead by... I don't know what it is, guys. I tell you, I think this probably comes from me being an infantry guy for so long, but when I was younger. But, man, I love watching Dead by Daylight. I don't know what it is about watching people get hung up on meat hooks that amuses me, but it is hilarious to me. So I like watching that game, even though I've never played it. All right, anyway, so let's go back here. Job control. I have a backgrounded job. So I can foreground one and bring that back to the foreground of my system. But now I'm just sitting here. My system's basically now no longer, I've no longer backgrounded this process. So now if I kill it, well, hold on. Let's not kill it yet. Let's just, I think we can we put it back to sleep? Yeah, we might not be able to. Yeah, it's going to stop it. Yeah, so now it's stopped. So that process is no longer running. But that's actually fine. We wanted to kill it anyways. But if it had been no-hupped, we could have left and come back here. So if I do let's do Control R and then do werewolf. So we're going to rerun our werewolf to the background, right? And then I'm just going to exit this terminal. But when I'm SSHing back in real quick and do a ps-ef grep-i for www client, oops. I see that client running. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Something else has happened. So the system has started that back up. Yeah, the system process restarted that one. Anyways, the point is that one should still be running that process. I should have looked up the process ID, but it doesn't really matter. The point is you can leave. No-hup allows it to be no longer contained to just the shell, meaning that the orphan isn't killed when the parent is killed. And the parent before, when we were looking at it before, was your bash shell. Now the parent here is system D, so this is not going to you're not going to lose that anymore. Something else must have that must just restart. It must be on some kind of timer. What's there? Oh, that's weird. Oh, it must go back to being owned by one if you leave the shell. So the original shell died. Yeah, that's probably what it is. That's got to be what it is, and then it's owned. No-hup should not have an out file by default. Yeah, it's probably fair. Yeah, I don't need to append anywhere. I probably could turn that off. I don't play with no-hup enough to use that. I just understand no-hup, and I use no-hup to explain to people how services like this work. Like I use screen in my environment so I can jump between. I'm on one system, but I'm screened into it. And then if I just go like this, if I just kill this shell, I didn't lose anything right here. There's Ranger. I didn't lose anything right there. I can go right here. I can go right back into my P01 Jump 01, which is my home box. I can say S Champagne, go in as my user. Hopefully I did my password right. and then I do screen-ls, and I see the different screen sessions that I have, and the one that I want is screen-r for 73684, which is my streaming one. And then now, when I do this, and I pull this right here, it's like I detach from it, but now I'm directly connected right back to it. I'm in the exact same one I was just in. Oh, if you control Z, it'll be paused, and then BG will resume it like no. Nice, nice. Oh, hold on, guys. I got a couple texts I got to respond to. Let me see what the wife wants to eat for dinner. And then that. All right. Screen's great. Tmux is fine. I mean, I tell people all the time, man. You can use anything that you're comfortable with. A lot of the Stig standards, and if you use Stigs and then use like an OpenSCAP workbench to generate the automated fixes, which I think some of the guys down in our Discord did the other day, you will find that it'll do Tmux everywhere. But the Stig standard just says that you have to have like a no-hup, like a lockable client environment, which Tmux happens to do. And then they have some Tmux configurations that are default built in. But if you wanted to do that a different way, you absolutely could. Also, that's one of those ones, I want to say that's like only a Cat 3. So that's one of the ones that you can typically get accepted by your ISSO, which is your Information System Security Officer. You can typically tell them, hey, it's ISSO. My closed captioning, man. Anyways, yeah, screen's great. I like it because, and I've told you guys this, and hopefully you guys believe me. I mean, I don't think I've given you any reason not to believe me, but I can take this and I can just close this up. I can go take a trip down to Mexico and I can log right back into this exact screen session from anywhere in the world. And I've done that before. I think, I don't think I ever streamed from Mexico. I've run college classes of mine from Mexico, but I've never, I don't think I've ever streamed from Mexico. So, what else do we got here? Let's think. Oh, anyway, so we got all these jobs over here. You can p-grep, you can p-kill. Typically, if I'm p-grepping or p-killing, maybe I do like a PSEF grep for like a user like Scott. Is the Scott user doing anything on here? No. But maybe I come back over here. This is actually one, I have this always ready to go in my labs in case there's problems. Let's look real quick. Let's say PSEF. And then we're not going to grep anything. We're going to awk the first value out of that line, which if you weren't paying attention earlier, let me show you. This is what the first, am I in the wrong? Give me a second here. So the first column of a PSEF is the user ID by name, right? You guys all see that right there? So I want to show you guys something real quick. Boom. Come back over here. And I'm going to control C it. And let's go to right here. And then I'm going to do a little bit. This is a bit left field, but I'm wondering if you ever played with Step CA to run PKI. I have not, Mr. Crumbs. I've run some PKI myself, but not Step CA. I can look into that, though. Let me throw to my to-do. That open source? Okay. That's kind of cool. I mean, if you had like a quick little, like quick and dirty setup, this would probably be good. Some of your higher security stuff might not pass, but then once you prototype and build your proof of concept and your MVP, your minimum viable product, then you could move off of this. But yeah, this is oh, you run this in prod? Is it that? All right. I like this because here's the thing. Because if this is really good, if the deployment is straightforward, you can start with tutorial. Okay. I can connect in with my Google. That's kind of cool. Short-lived certs if you want. Okay, okay. I wonder how much of this can do all that. Interesting. You want the open source? Okay, they got an open source version. Okay. When I started looking into this, I started to think, I wonder how this compares with like stuff you can do from Vault, because I know Vault will generate some things for you as well. I've never tried to generate certs though, but it will do some authentication stuff for you. Anyways, okay, that looks interesting. Let me show you something real quick. I'm gonna say unique. I'm gonna sort them all, and then I'm gonna do unique -C, and this will become very, very readily available, very, very quickly. This should become obvious what's happening here. So you've got 174 root processes that are running. You've got a bunch of little stuff doing some stuff. You've got some nobody. We can go look into that if we want. But we've got 6 that are streamer 1. Streamer 1 is a user in our system, a user in our environment that I allow people to connect in on, right? So if I ever needed to pkill, I could say pkill-u streamer 1, and that would kill off everybody connected to the Bastion host. Wouldn't kill the Bastion host, but it would kill all the users that are connected through into our environment. The ways that I monitor those users, some of you guys have been here before. Obviously, I have all the logins. I have failed logins, but I could come right here. I'll do this for a second. I'm not going to leave this up, but streamer 1, I can see the people that have connected, and if I went over to the right, I'd be able to see all their IP addresses. Okay, so I'm kind of glad this is a little smaller, but and that's only for the last 6 hours. If I went for the past all the time people have logged in, I could see where they were logging in from. I plan to never really use that, but if anybody was doing like ratchet shit and I had to go clean up and get rid of them or whatever, I could at least come in here and do it. I also have right here, I can see the number of users that are connected into my servers, and P01Jump01 always has the most users connected. Well, it's because the users that are here include my users on root here, as well as all the streamers that have connected through, right? And then part of their streamer, you get part of their IPs there as well. So the reason I show you guys that is because, well, 1, I want to show you guys that we can monitor stuff, but 2, over here for like the pkill, you can kill all the processes from a -u user and just kill them all off. And then PID of, if I recall correctly, PID of should help us. If we come back over here, PSEF grep-i for WW client, and I think if I do a PID of and look at like 15317, I think it'll give me, I think it gives me the information about it, right? Single shot process IDs that are running. Somebody help me out here. I haven't used this in a while. Oh, of the named programs. All right. I guess I've never used that before. I thought PID of was the one that goes and shows you all the tools. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't been on there. I've been using this provision short-lived SSH search with my key cloak. Nice. No more fingerprint warnings when SSH in. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and key cloak is one. I ran key cloak in the early 2020s. And I haven't been back around to Keycloak lately, but I do like it. It's got some pretty good stuff in it. I just haven't gotten back around to using it. We were using it on a big NOAA project. We ended up not, I remember it didn't get into the final deliverable, but it was it was part of this tool called Shasta. Shasta doesn't exist anymore. You guys go look it up if you want, but Shasta was the high performance compute system devised by Cray that had like Ansible containers at its core, and it had Kubernetes to stand up as you like jumped in. All of your management nodes and stuff, they only existed as you were in them to do management work, and then when you left, they went away. So like Kubernetes was doing a lot of heavy lifting for like when we do cluster work, we have like what's in the cluster and what's the infrastructure that's kind of like scaffolding on the side of it, and all of that scaffolding on the side was ephemeral nodes that only existed when you jumped into them through Kubernetes, which was pretty cool little process that they did. But Shasta didn't fit in with Cray got bought by Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and then Hewlett Packard Enterprise, it didn't fit in. So if you ever use any of their high performance compute now, it's all this tool called HPCM. So anyways, ads again. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, probably. They pop up a lot. All right. We got more. Oh, networking. We love networking, right? What's all our networking stuff? So we'll look at all these IP route tools here in a second. We'll give people time to come back. Yeah, Mr. Crumbs, come back when you get a chance. Hopefully the ads don't drive everybody away. I think there's probably less ads over on the YouTube side. Not sure exactly. However, fun fact, I think we have more people. No, we don't have more people on YouTube than Twitch, but it's close. It's real close. All right. So let's look at this a little bit. So we used to do ifconfig, but I don't know if ifconfig's there still. Okay. So I can see my interface. Most of us nowadays, we use IP adder. And then I actually really like this version of IP-BR adder. And you can also do just an A if you want. But I mostly want to just see the interfaces in a really brief fashion. And in all of these instances, very quickly, I can tell there's two interfaces, either Ethernet 0 or loopback. Loopback's always there on an IPv4 type network, right? But then I can go see, is the interface IPv4 based or IPv6 based? And does anybody know on this system if it's all IPv4 or if it's all IPv6, or is it a mix? Is it what we would consider a we would consider this hybrid, but sometimes we would call it if you're over both, we often call that search my brain for the term and I can't find it. Anyways, is the it is definitely these are dual honed. We call them dual honed, where you're in both IPv4 and IPv6. So these are dual honed networks in that sense. So we've got a IPv4 address for home, 127.0.0.1, and we have the ::1/128. That is the IPv6 equivalent of home. This won't look as cool on shirts in the future, right? And then our ETH0 is in 192.168.200 as the network with a /24. So the host portion of this network is the 51, and the network portion of this network is the 192.168.200. And you know that based on the number of significant bits that are right here in the CIDR, right? That's your CIDR block right there, /24. If you were to write this as a mask, that would be 255, 255, 255, 0, right? Over here, we got a big old hot mess of hexadecimal, which is your IPv6, and it's a /64, right? So half of that is being used for network, and the other half of it is being used for host portion, right? Very long, very unique, right? Anyways, so we go look at that, and then we have, so those are all our IP commands. So maybe I do like a history and do like a tail-5. Those are mostly your IP commands there that you're going to run into. And then if we want to see what is our system listening to, we look for, that used to be netstat, and netstat does some things that are good. But a lot of times nowadays people will use SS. So it's SS, and then maybe we want to see for just NTLP, maybe we just want to see the TCP connections, and then maybe we change that to U, and we only want to see the UDP connections. So we can see the TCP at the top or only the UDP on the bottom, and then we could count those, and we can do a whole bunch of other stuff. Whoops. Let's make that bigger so we can see it. I guess it's not going to fit no matter what we do, is it? Ah, there we go. All right. Here's your TCP, which are all listening, and your UDP, which are unconnected, right? YouTube has no ads. Well, there you go. Maybe people need to all hop over on YouTube. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyways, we can see the PID, the process ID that started this. That's the parent process ID over there. And then here's the actual process ID of the listening process, right? And you can start to then dig in more. So you could say LSOF dash I for like 22, which is like we've got port 22 that we're listening to right here. And I could say, okay, what's listening on port 22? And I would see some of these same things. I would see the 802 PID, which is listening to SSH, so IPv4 and IPv6. So I would see the same things that I see here. That's IPv6, IPv4. I can also then go look at that process, LSOF-P for 802, and this will show me all of the files. And remember, everything in Linux is a file, even if it's just a file handle for here's our file 3U and 4U. They're called FD's file descriptors, right? Here's the file descriptors for those two connections, right? Or those listeners, because they're not actually connected to right now. Well, I guess the TCP one is, those are both TCP. And then these are the UDP ones here. Yeah, there you go. And you can go look at those and dig in. But the point is, you have all this. Hold on. Okay. The wife is going to a place out here called Angry Chicks. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Angry Chicks, but it's pretty good. I think it's they only have one or two of them out here in the Phoenix area, but I think it's a chain in the southeast of the U.S., what most people just call the South. And they do pretty good chicken. They do really, really spicy, like ridiculously spicy chicken. In fact, so spicy that you have to sign a waiver to get the really hot stuff. It's pretty brutal. But I just go for like their more country stuff, which is just, you know, mid-range chicken with a bunch of mac on top of, like mac and cheese on top of this. That's pretty good. All right. Anyways, where were we at? I'm talking about the wife because the wife's bringing me stuff. All right. So we come over here. You've got a tool in here. So NMCLI, I use this a lot, con show, to show me the connections that are there. And then you can do NMCLI commands to configure your connections if you want to. But I can see that my devices are connected like this. So ETH0 is considered the default device. And then there's this ENS3. And they look like they have different UIDs to them. But I suspect that they're actually, if I do IP adder, I suspect they're actually the same device. I think there's also a link show here. Is that right? No. You can also do help. I don't do NMCLI very much. But there's all kinds of other things. I typically do con. Oh, it might be device. Sorry, it's device. So you can show all the devices that are there, and that'll give you like a good, I mean, this will really dig in to what's going on with the device. So there's some good information there. Other things that are similar to this, these different tools down here, if config ifcfg hostname will tell you the hostname of the box. that should be querying a file here called Etsy hostname, and that should be in sync typically. Your PS1 variable typically is just looking at the hostname. So this slash right here, sorry, that's a \h, is really just a character that gets interpolated on the command line for Rocky. We can change these. You guys know that, right? We can change PS1 could be equal to, like I could make my PS1 equal to whoops, in here /u and then at Scott Stream, right? I don't have to, and then the last part of the path is here, and then I can make it, well, we're gonna go ahead and pretend like we are with the escape S, that's, or the escape $, that's going to be whether or not you're root or a normal user. And if I do this, that goes ahead and changes my PS1 variable right there. But that doesn't change it forever. If I exit and come back in, whoops, exit and then SSH back in, it'll be back to the normal one. We could also resource our .bashrc, and that probably would have fixed it too. Like if I did this and then I did source root .bashrc. Pretty sure. No, that didn't do it. If bash didn't do it, hold on. Oh, it might be Etsy bash rc. We'll do it. No? All right, well, screw it. You just said it like that. I don't know. But we can go dig into where that gets set, because that does get set as you log in. But I don't remember where it's set, so I'll just leave and go back in. I'll bypass the problem that I've created for myself. Oh, can I just source bash rc like that? That's probably right. Let's see. Let's test, right? This is one of these things where we just test it. Source. I thought you just do a dot for source. But either way, it's not doing it. Either way, I mean, yeah, but that should be the same as like this. Or I could be explicit, right? I can say dot bash rc. And either way, it's not doing it. So, all right, it doesn't matter, right? Whoops. Doesn't matter that much to us. Now we can do ARP. And ARP will tell us, like in -A, ARP will tell us all the systems that the system knows about and has kept in its address resolution protocol cache. So ARP is a tool in systems that help map between layer 3 and layer 2 addresses. Layer 3 are going to be your IPv4 addresses, and layer 2 are going to be your MAC addresses, right? Now, this is funny that ARP is showing like this, because it's also then mapping, and in this one here, when I didn't use a -A, it was using the layer 7 address, which is the DNS or the host type name, right? This is the mapping of IP to MAC. And they always talk, there's always ARP requests going around on a system. Well, exec bash would have dropped me into another bash, and that should have worked, yeah. Yeah. Or I could have went into another bash shell for sure. That would have went back to normal. All right, so I can do this. I can, this is a big one too, IPR, which will show me the routes for how things leave my system. So if I were to ping www.google.com, I would see that I'm pinging 142.251.40.36. That's just that's Google for now. Google will be different later, and I know that because I ping Google all the time while I'm showing people stuff, right? Now, if I do an IPR, or IP route, and I see that there's two paths that I can take to get to 142.251.40.36. And the way your system makes this determination is like this. It looks down here for what's called the longest prefix match. And right here, this is 192.168.200. This is the network portion. I know it's the network portion because it's /24. And what I'm saying here is, does 192.168.200 match at 14? Nope. Once it got to 142, it no longer matched 192. Throw it out. It's no good. Then I go to 251.40.36, and None of that stuff matches, right? So then what happens? Metrics matter, but metrics are only the order that it's going to try in. A metric will not override not meeting a rule, right? A metric is just the order we try the rules in, but the rule itself overrides the metric. The metric's just the order of the trial. These would get tried at the same time, but typically they're going to go here first, and then default will be, well, default is going to say, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm just going to hot potato it up to the next device in my routes. In systems, we tend to call these default routes, but in the networking world, we tend to call them gateways of last resort. They are the exact same concept, though. And it's just the fact that a router doesn't know what to do with stuff. It goes like this and then drops it on the floor. The routers are particularly bad at the game of hot potato. If they don't know what to do with something, they do not try to figure it out. They drop it on the floor. They go down through their routing tables, right? Show IP route. Boom, 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 boom. Toss it. Same type of routing occurs inside of a Linux machine, inside of the kernel here. So, yeah, that's it. All right. Yeah, these are the Rocky defaults here. Those metrics, I didn't set those. Yeah, I didn't. This is a set of, like we were doing earlier. These are a set of nodes that are just clones of each other. And then we were just looking over here at the different things. So, etc sysconfig network-scripts. That's a very common Red Hat type path. So etc sysconfig network scripts. You do not, so if you are down in a Ubuntu type server, you are going to go probably to etc netplan, and that'll look like this. Let me go jump over here. Hold on. Man, I was doing all kinds of other crap in here. One of these are pretty much untouched. Hold on. Yeah. My password will expire. Excuse me. Hold on. What? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I rebuilt these. I forgot I rebuilt all these. Hold on. Which ones? Oh, no. Damn it. I must have lost one of my environments. Okay. So that's where your configs tend to be in like an Ubuntu style system nowadays. And then you use a tool like netplan and you do netplan apply and then it changes all the stuff. This stuff is all going to YAML and JSON everywhere. So that's one of my configurations in my lab environment for my red nodes to get out, because we're in 192.168.200 is one network deep inside of my home lab off of my normal network, which is a different 192.168 network, right? And then things route between them through my where's he at? It's this guy right here. C router is the only device in my environment that sits between two networks. He's got two networks on. Let me go out of here. I think I can jump into him. I hope I can get in there. Is it lab? Hold on. Okay. So real quick, IP adder in here, and you'll see that he sits on the 192.168.200 network as the .1 gateway of last resort for those other nodes, and he's on 192.168.11.160, and he happens to just be in here as a place for devices to communicate between. He bridges the two networks, is the way that ends up being. Twitch. One of the weirdest issues I had to deal with was for e-commerce customers having issues connecting to a site when 95% of customers worked fine. Turned out an edge router didn't have enough memory to hold the full routing table when inherited from an upstream router. Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because that problem when I started networking, I started learning Cisco networking in 2000. I was down the infantry, just running around, started going to college at night, and I started learning all the Cisco stuff. And back then, in the early 2000s, the routers did not. So there's two primary. There's some hybrid versions of them, but there's distance vector and there's link state type routing, right? And distance vector just deals in hop counts. So a device doesn't need to know all the states and all the metrics that are being used between here and there like it does in link state. Most routers nowadays, so Ethereal, your problem is most of the routers nowadays use link state. Open shortest path first is link state. iGrip and EIGrip they're hybrid, but they use link state in that the information is passed of all the other devices known to a device, right? So yeah, like you were saying about the full routing table, yeah, that was probably one of the oldest routers in your environment, and that's actually interesting that came up because yeah, some ranges getting dropped, and that would have been a nightmare to try to figure out too. But yeah, I remember back when we used to have to, when we would update devices, we would always have to make sure we had a serial port. We'd have out of band connections to get to them, because when we used to update firmware and flash things, well, so firmware and flash are a little different, but anyways, when you would update flash memory for like your iOS, you wouldn't have enough to have both of them on the device at the same time. So you would TFTP a new one down while the other one was running, and then you would boot it, and you would be like, I hope. And if it went down, you would have to console in, you would have to boot it up, and you would have to set it to a register mode where you could then have it go TFT and pull that, and then you have to get that system back up to working. Either pulling the new one, or if it couldn't work, go back to the old one and get back up to where you were. But that's like, there's always security considerations nowadays. Back then, we weren't patching we didn't really start patching network devices until later. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare to try to figure out for sure, because people are having valid, real problems that are affecting customers, but it's very hard to dig down into what's causing it. So, yeah. This one right here is, so depends what you're asking. Somebody said if this is EL8 or EL9. This is Rocky 9.4, which is basically the same as Red Hat Enterprise Linux 9.4. This over here is some flavor of Ubuntu, because I was building Ubuntu in the lab for a while. Yeah, so it's 22. I have some stuff in the lab environment that's Ubuntu. I have a fair amount that's Rocky. I have some that's still CentOS. I have some OpenSUSE in the environment. I have a lot of stuff running around the environment stuff. Yeah. Oh, I showed that earlier, Hotshot. Yeah, the IP-BR. I love that. I think that's such a good A or ADDR. Yeah, I love this when I'm trying to get, because I work on systems that have InfiniBand connections, and then they have 3 or 4 different Ethernets coming in, and sometimes I do not want, for you guys, this looks fine because it's only 2, but when you have like 8 of them, this eats up all your screen, and then now stuff's going off the top. It's the worst when you're trying to do systems work and reference things between nodes, and you're trying to jump back and forth between them, but some of them are off the top. It's just a hassle, right? So yeah, that IP-BR like that's a lifesaver. So that's definitely a big lifesaver there. Oh, guys, I gotta get off here soon because the wife's coming home. So, my friends broke their index finger yesterday. That happens. We do. I do a sport called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there's a fair amount of breaks and injuries in my friends at any given time. Not always related to me. Typically related to other stuff. All right, let's go look at something here. You got this Etsy host file, and this is all generated inside of a tool called Werewolf. But what I wanted to show you guys is then your NS switch. So if you cat Etsy nsswitch.conf in an environment, you will see how your system is going to look for things. And what do I mean by that? Well, your passwd and shadow files are going to look for a tool called SSS first, which I'm pretty sure I'm not running SSS. Yeah, if I was using SSHD, it would look, SSSD, not SSHD, SSSD. Then this would use that first for password. But then it would look at files. So the file for password is Etsy passwd. The file for shadow is Etsy shadow, right? groups, group right here would look for that SSSD as well if that was part of it, right? Yeah. Okay, and then there's all these aliases down here. But you can change the behavior of how your system works. If you want your system to look up hosts, your system's going to look at files first, and it's going to look at DNS second. If you want to know where your system's looking up DNS, cat-etc-resolve.conf, right? And this is where my system goes and looks for name resolution, which is the name server 8.8.8.8 is out in the world. It's a Google supported, like Google runs that one. But there's an assumption here. Does anybody know if there's an assumption here for me to be able to use DNS? And does anybody know what that assumption is? Here, if it helps, I will exit out of this box. Let's see if I can exit and exit one more time. And let's cat this etsy resolve.conf because maybe this will help. Live coding's got it. It assumes I have access to the internet. Because if I don't have access to the internet, that ain't gonna work. But internally, this one would work. In my other lab, and my other one, I don't know what's going on here. Should have never left. I don't know what the hell I did to my environment, but we'll have to go figure out why Scott's all busted. But Scott is very busted in his home environment. Oh, I think I messed up. Oh, I messed up my keys file. Oh, I just want to die in this in the game in game, not in real life. You guys want to see my favorite system D? Somebody, James just mentioned system D resolve. I'm gonna show you guys my favorite system D command. It's system D analyze blame. My favorite command. System D analyze blame. And what this does is this tells you all the systems that are to blame or all the processes and how long they took to start in chronological order of the longest start. It's not chronological order of time. It's it's order of how long they took. So www client took 5 seconds to come up. And then you can say analyze instead of blame you can use system. Somebody help me out here. Not bot, not critical chain. Although we do those other ones. Oh, you just do it by itself. There it is. And it'll give you the time it took for the system to come up. Just the time that the system took to come up. So, few commands. Those are the commands that we were using here to do some stuff the last few minutes. And then we were looking over on the right. That's just a CompTIA Linux Plus page. It's a PDF that they publish for like their objectives for their cert. I tell you guys all the time, whether or not you're gonna go take a cert doesn't really matter. If you don't have any, like you have a lot of experience doing this stuff and you're a hobbyist but you want to go do this stuff professionally, which is again the goal of our group is to get you guys doing this professionally, is you want to anchor your knowledge around something. And even if you're not going to go take a Linux Plus or a Red Hat cert or a whatever, you can at least study the stuff. And then if somebody has, like, they want you to have a Red Hat cert, you might as well throw your name in the hat. There's not that many Linux admins out there and Linux engineers. And you throw your name in and they say, well, we really wanted you to have this. And you go, well, I can talk about anything on that cert. I haven't taken the cert, but I've studied for it, right? I mean, you can at least say that, at least get in the door, right? I tell you guys all the time, the most important thing is getting hired, right? I don't ever tell anybody to lie. If it's on a resume, you need to be able to talk to it. But you can know the things and you can have prepped for the things without having taken the test, is my point. Oh, nice. Hot shot. You took Linux Plus for fun as a challenge from a coworker and scored an 849. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah. I think a lot of these ones, I look at these and I'm like, there's a lot of stuff here that I think is very attainable for you guys, even if you've never done this stuff. So, all right, guys, I am coming up on 2 hours. The wife's coming home. I got to get off of here soon. But if this stuff's interesting to you, right, we've got a Discord. If you're like, hey, I do want to get better at this stuff, and I do want to think about doing this stuff professionally. I realize some of you guys already do this stuff professionally. I get that. But some of you do not, and some of you want to get better at it. So feel free to go hang out down there with those guys. It's free. It doesn't cost you even less than it does watching us for ads, right? Oh, nice, Mr. Robinson. You work in the industry as a Linux subject matter expert. That's awesome. Yeah, this is a place for people to come that are trying to get better at Linux. I've been doing it for, I don't know, I've been doing Linux for almost 25 years now, I guess, professionally. And I tell you guys, just come in here, work on stuff, get your rhythm of, some people start doing Linux, but then they go, you know what? I like Linux as a hobby, but I don't want to do it professionally. I like data analytics. This happens all the time. And guys, there's a whole bunch of people running down our Discord that they're actually software engineers. One of the guys that came talk to the group a couple weeks ago, he was a software engineer. We have meetings on every Saturday, right? And he's a software engineer right now, but he's been a site reliability engineer before. And before that, he was a Linux engineer with me. That's what he did on a team with me. And he's jumped around a couple different roles. And right now, his actual job title with, who's he with? He's with that company that a lot of people know of. They do the big cloud services, but they do them with GPUs. So you can like use cloud services. It's not, is it Lambda? I think it's called Lambda. So, nice. Yeah, Mr. Robinson, we have a section down there around, like jobs. I'm always posting jobs in there from people, typically from people I know. So if people need, invites, or if they need to talk directly to like a recruiter or something, I know the people when I post something in there. So there's always that. So Amazon, Nvidia. Oh, okay. All right, so we'll wrap this up here. I have more stuff to talk about. I have a lot of stuff to work on. These are notes from the other days. I need to post these up in the Discord. But suffice it to say, you guys are always welcome to kind of hang out down there, and we will keep working on this stuff. We've got the Linux Systems Administration group tomorrow for anybody that wants to come to that. We got 67 people say they're coming. We typically have about 30 or 40 in there, so you guys are welcome to do that. So, NVIDIA has a data center that you were working on that built from DGX machines. Nice. Yeah, I tell you guys, I've been watching the lines blur between HPC and AI and all these other things. Like I build HPC systems now. That's what I do for work. I work for a company called Redline, and we just build high performance compute systems for the government and for private customers and colleges and stuff like that. We build big high performance compute systems, and a lot of that is becoming indistinguishable because of all the GPUs we're putting in systems from just being like AI clusters. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on too. So yeah, thanks for coming by, Mr. Robinson. We'll go to my little end of stream thing here on the Twitch side of things. I'll find somebody to raid over to. On the YouTube side, I appreciate you guys coming by. You're welcome to hang out anytime. And for most of you guys, I will probably talk to you guys. Yeah, I'll be on tomorrow. Right, we'll talk tomorrow. Let's go right over to Rob. Let's go see how Rob's doing. Where's Rob? Shoot. Following Rob. All right, we'll raid over to Rob. The raid message will be something like this, which will be our Hetanis Rage do all the Linux. So you guys are welcome to do that if you want. On the YouTube side, I appreciate you guys coming by. On the Twitch side, I will see some of you guys, yeah, probably tomorrow, and we'll be down in Discord doing our normal meeting time. All right, take care, everybody.